All right, so we'll see if this microphone works. I could be talking into this for nothing, but we'll give it a shot. So we're week 6, final week of Fuel for Life, and so we've got um, a small number of us here, but we're going to talk about some important things. So I'm going to let y'all start. There's a couple things that I think are the big takeaways that I want us to focus on. I think the first thing, and we can, whoever feels comfortable talking first, the first thing is I want you to kind of talk about what you feel like your biggest takeaways from the whole cumulative process were, right? Whether that be in the context of, nutrition, what effects it had on your sleep, the things that conceptually big ideas that you're going to take away from this experience. What do y'all think? Anybody want to?
Um, I would say the biggest thing for me is just portion control and balancing my macros because that has always been hard for me. I was definitely eating a lot more carbs in the form of fruit because that was just a free pass for me before.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the biggest change of eating much less fruit. But I'm just much more aware of how much I'm eating and trying to balance everything and working in the snacks. I think is still hard to do on a busy work day, but it's really important to help portion control the bigger meals like lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's probably my biggest takeaway.
I would agree with that. I think the meal planning is the important part. Um, so yeah, I think the meal planning, and then I really stopped eating bread for the last 6 weeks. I don't think bread's good.
How do you feel?
I feel really good, um, but then I started taking the whey and the creatine. But I feel pretty good. I can recover quicker.
Yeah.
But yeah, I stopped eating the bread. I felt really good, and I was dropping the first couple of weeks, and then when I added creatine and whey, I started going up again. But I feel great. I feel a lot stronger too.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think the big thing is thinking about sustainability, right? Like going into this, the intention is not for it to be a diet per se, right? And I was kind of like you, and thinking that, I thought I was doing like prior to the whole thing, I was like, I think I'm eating the right things. Maybe it's more fruit than I probably should have been eating, or um, a larger portion of carbs in other formats, like starchy carbs. I'm like, oh, it's fine to have a little bit of rice, right? But like my portion sizes were off. So thinking about things that, because the whole point is sustainability, right? Like habits that you're going to build, that you're going to be able to take into everyday life from here on out, right? So the first time I did the program was almost a year ago, I guess. I guess it was like February, maybe March. The first time we did it in spring of this year of 2024. So the beginning of the year, because I think we finished in March or something, or either way. The point is, I picked up some habits from that go around that I was able to keep long term, right? I allowed myself a little bit of fluctuation in terms of when we finished the program, like, okay, I can have more of this on a regular basis because I don't have my regular weigh ins. And I may have fluctuated in weight just a little bit, but knowing and relying on the habits that I could go back to about like, okay, this is how much I should be eating. And now I know when I'm not eating that, right? And I could monitor, okay, well, this is how it affected me. Maybe I didn't get as good a sleep, right? Or I didn't recover as well because I've had too much, starchy carbs today or whatever it is. So I think thinking about, the last time I had done the program, I wanted to make sure that I was taking away things that could be lifestyle habits. And so I knew it wasn't sustainable for me to say I'm never going to be able to have starchy carbs again, right? Like that's not sustainable for me long term. So, but what is it that I could take away? So for me, the first time it was portion control, right? The amount of things that I'm eating. So if I know like, hey, I really want to make sure that I get, some carbs in here because carbs do fuel me for exercise. I just need to know how much that is, right? How much of the white rice should I be eating, or how much of the sweet potato should I be having? And so I think for me, it was thinking about just being aware of how much that is and how much of it should be in my regular routine, and when and what part of the day it works well for me. So for me, and I was telling Joe this at one of our one-on-one talks earlier in the program. For me, it was earlier in the day, the carbs, if I have them at lunch, because I work out in the afternoons, right? So if I have my carbs at lunch, my potato or my rice or whatever, then it has time to digest and gives me the energy for the 4:30, 5:30 workout. If I had the carbs at night, then I kind of just wake up feeling a little sluggish in the morning, right? So I kind of tried to say, okay, well, I know that I can have X, Y, and Z carbs, but my body responds best when I have them in the middle of the day. And that's something that, even after this, if I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to lose weight, let's say, but I want to feel good, I want to sleep well, I want to perform well. And those are the things that I was like, okay, this can be a lifestyle habit for me that I carry through, even if I'm, in a season of life where it's like, okay, I'm going to allow myself a little bit more freedom with the things that I'm eating at this point, right? So I guess I'm just curious if y'all have anything. So you have big takeaways that you talked about. Can you think about specific habits or practices that you're like, okay, this is something that I could see myself doing long term, right? As part of everyday just lifestyle change.
Um, so going into this program, I wasn't going to do it because I was like, oh, I've done other programs and I'm pretty sure I was eating pretty healthy. And
Yeah.
I was like,
The same thought I had. Yeah.
But then since starting CrossFit, I was gaining some weight. And I was like, okay, I'm probably allowing myself more calories because I feel like, oh, I'm working out more, I'm burning more. And so I actually feel like I learned so much from the program. And it's not that like everything that was sent out to us, I didn't know in some way, like the sleep, the habits, the supplements, the mental health part of it. Like all of that I've read or done at some point, but never kind of put together in this way.
Yeah.
And I think it's so neat because it can apply to so many things outside of eating and the gym. So I think that was really nice. And I think 6 weeks was awesome because I did so great for the first 4 weeks, stuck to it to the T. And then I think you need this amount of time for life to get in the way, right?
Yeah.
Work, travel,
See what's
whatever.
gonna stick. Yeah,
And
right.
to kind of put you through those challenges to see how you're doing, but also to see how your body changes whenever you kind of get off track, how you're feeling. Like I still feel like I'm recovering from lack of sleep and not eating right for those last 2 weeks. But I tell everybody I feel like the program was life changing for me in a lot of ways. And one thing, I'm not sure if there's just one thing.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest impact is probably the diet. But I don't know. It was all great. And I think it was so successful because there were like 3 of us in the 5 a.m. class. We were always talking about it. And I think the support system was so good
Yeah.
to help keep us on track.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
And I also a reason why I think we can continue that, or I could continue that because the support system is still there.
That's great.
Which is hard previously because I was just doing things on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's easier. Like there's nobody waiting for me to like check in with or anything like that. No one's going to know if I don't follow X, Y, and Z or whatever. Right. That's a good point.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, the takeaway is, I guess, to stick with it. I did learn that the point system. I think that was helpful. Just got to follow and stay with that.
Yeah.
But also just the other tips you said were pretty helpful about the time of day to eat. Depending on when you work out, have a bigger lunch if you're working out in the afternoon. I think that was helpful. What else? Yeah, just some of the paperwork was pretty helpful with the different meals and such. So I think it's just a matter of following through with it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think those are really helpful things. And we've done different iterations of this, like spring and fall and things like that. So like when I did it, um, there was like Joe T. Torres, who always comes at 4:30. He was doing it at the same time I was. So like speaking to the fact that there are other people in the class doing it, that I was like, hey, how are you feeling? What did you eat? Whatever. One day we had, I don't remember, I think maybe you had to leave early or you were here initially, but we had a meeting and Leah was talking about breakfast. She's like, I feel like I don't have like ideas for breakfast that I can take with me when I'm in a rush and it all starts to fall apart if I don't start my day well. And he had walked in and he was like, oh, when I did the program, we made these. And she was just like, that sounds amazing. And then the next week she was like, I made them and it was life changing. Like it was so easy to meal prep. So I think the community is a big piece of it, because when Mike had to talk, well, it was actually Becca, but people had to talk me into doing it too, because I was very similar to you. I was like, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Like I've done this before. I've counted macros and I know, generally what I should be doing, and I'm just not doing it. But I think it was also the accountability piece and the community piece, and knowing that somebody was going to ask me how it was going, or somebody else was struggling and maybe there was something I could give them to help through the whole process. But also just wanting to wake up and feel good, like outside of working out, just waking up and not feeling tired or not having that afternoon crash every day has been really, really helpful just in life and productivity in general. So those are the things that when I finished the program, I was like, okay, I want to keep this feeling going, because I think it's a whole lifestyle change, right? And for me, the hard part was like getting my husband on board, because he was like, let's go back to homemade pizza and like kolaches and donuts all the time. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to say like we can't occasionally have those things, but it can't be, like when I regularly eat like that, it affects more than just, like, oh, I don't feel good that day. It's like, it takes a while to get out of my system.
How do you feel after completing the program earlier in the year,
Mm-hmm.
and then this little break from it and doing it again? Because there's always that feeling of, okay, the program's over,
Yeah.
and then you feel like, okay, maybe I can just let off
Right.
a little bit,
Right.
But then now you're like trying to
Reset.
go back, and not letting yourself stray too far.
Right. So I will say, I think my total weight loss, and I know, so Mike has a spreadsheet where he's been tracking all the weigh-ins. And so I know that he will in some facet share that in some way. I don't remember how we did that last time. Was it on Facebook? Okay. So like you can go see mine. So I don't know, Mike, if you want to share on Facebook so you can see everybody's, weight loss, but I think I had lost like 7 pounds throughout the whole thing, which for someone my height is not, and you're about my height, right? Like that's quite a bit for somebody of short stature. And so I knew, at the end of it, I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself some grace, and that if I put on a couple pounds, it's not the end of the world. And we had some weigh-ins where, my water weight fluctuated and it was up a pound or two. So I didn't ever let the scale be the driving factor. That being said, before we started the program, I was like, I need to do an initial weigh-in, right? And I hadn't gotten back up to where I was, but I had gained like probably 3 or 4 pounds. So still losing weight from the last program, but then starting again. And so it was much easier this time around to get back into habits, though. It wasn't like a shock to my body like it was the first week, and of like, okay, I don't know what I need to do to be successful, and my body's going to respond to eating 3 times a day, 5 times a day, right? So it was much easier to jump back in, right? And I think the biggest thing for me in doing it the second time is being able to say, okay, I know how my body will respond if I change this. Right? I know that if I'm feeling this way, or if it's affecting me in this way, this is the culprit. This is what's causing it, because I experienced so much success the first time that I'm able to just be more self-aware of how I'm feeling and what might be triggering that. And so I think it's just a greater increase in self-awareness and the ability to say, okay, if I've strayed this far, this is what I need to do to get back on track. And these are the things that I know will get me back on track. And this is how I should be feeling to know that I'm back on track. Right. And so, yeah, but there's always ebbs and flows. There's always things like this time around. I would say I did not do as well with the hydration. So the first time I really, really focused on water. and knowing that I was more dehydrated than I should be on a regular basis. And so I feel like that being a focus with the food, wanting to see the success was great. And this time I was like, okay, I know what I need to do. And maybe I should have, focused more on some other things too. But I still go back to those resources all the time, right? So I still have the emails because I didn't, like some of them you're like, oh yeah, I know this. I know to eat my food slowly. But just seeing them in my email inbox on a regular basis is sometimes a good reminder to just say, like, oh yeah, you know?
Speaking of which, that whole mindfulness eating,
Yeah.
I will never be able to do. I feel like eating is kind of a chore sometimes. Like I'm always eating while doing something else,
Yeah.
or rushing, or in my car,
Mhm.
going to the next stop,
Mm-hmm.
especially with snacks.
Yeah.
So
That's the hard one.
Yeah, I did none of that.
I will say, I don't like every time I eat, like think I'm going to chew slowly and do whatever, but I will make an effort to not put food in my mouth if there's any food in my mouth still.
Okay.
So
yeah.
if it's like, I don't know, I didn't realize I was doing that, right? Like if I'm like, oh, I'm ready to like take a next bite, even if it's not fully out of my mouth or swallowed or whatever. So making sure that everything is fully chewed, everything is fully swallowed. It was just something I wasn't aware I was doing, So I don't know, just think about it. Next time you're like, am I, when you're ready to take the next bite, you're like, is there still food in my mouth? Am I done? Have I swallowed? I don't know. But like not even picking up the next bite until it's completely done has been helpful. So anyway, any other thoughts? I look like there's somebody that's going to help us out here. But yeah, so would y'all feel like if you were giving yourself, let's say, to end on this note, if you were giving yourself, and we all know we're our own worst critics, right? But if you were giving yourself a rating on a 1 to 5, right? Like 5 was I did everything I was supposed to do throughout the duration of this 100%, right? What sort of rating would you give yourself cumulative throughout the program?
Oh, out of 5, I don't know. I would say because I did so well for 4 weeks, I would give myself a 4.
Okay. It's just the last couple weeks.
The last couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I blame work. But I'm getting back on track. It's hard to get back on track, though.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it.
Good.
I would probably give myself a 2. I was good the first week or so. First 2 weeks was going down, but then I changed it up. But I'm actually happy I made the changes, and I'm going forward. I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
Just need to execute it. But I'm actually with the creatine and whey. I was sore for like 48 hours. Now I'm like good to go almost every day. So with just that change alone, and then like I said, I took out the bread, and I'm still trying to balance my meals as well. So those changes were helpful for me. So I know what I need to do, just need to execute.
Right.
So.
And like I said, I think that's the big thing, the awareness, right? Like having the knowledge, having the power. And the nice thing is that this is now a resource. So like you finish this, like there were times between doing the program the first time and doing it this time that I was like, I just want to do a weigh-in just to check in, right? And check my body fat and have a data point that's in between, right? And so you have that access. And if you want to have conversations with anybody about any of this, like I'll still talk to people that have done it, and I'm like, hey, what are you eating for, dinner tonight? Like, just give me some ideas. And you still have access to the Facebook group, right? So you'll see the next iteration of this if new ideas come along and all of that. It's always a resource that's available to you. So I think the intention is for it to be these lifelong habits that life is life and it's not always going to be perfect, right? But you know what to do to get back on track, and you should hopefully know what to do to like let yourself be the best version of yourself. So cool. Any parting thoughts? No pressure, just opportunity.
Well, I think, I will tell everybody that they should do it, even if they think that they already know what it's going to be about, or even if they've taken something similar in the past, just give it another shot, because I was wrong and I loved it and I would absolutely do it again. with whoever just to cheer them on. But yeah, so I would encourage everybody to do it. I think you can always get something great out of it.
I agree. You need to execute and plan. I think, and it's important to have some accountability with it as well. So that's what I would say.
People always told me when we started this, they're like, you get out of it what you put into it, right? But it's the knowledge, it's the skills, and it's the ability to prep you for it. But it is ultimately up to you. So cool. All right. Signing out.